Hello! Welcome to Sinner Saint Sister. This is a space where spirited, hurting, searching, faithful people come together and ask hard questions and listen to some really wise people share about how they have lived life deeply. If this episode spoke to you, I hope that you leave a review and subscribe. You can visit YouTube/Allison Sullivan for some really fun extras. I hope you hear something today that lets you know you are loved and helps you love one another. Welcome to Sinner Saint Sister. This story probably falls into the overshare category. Right after I had our last baby, I walked into my bathroom and I saw maxi pads stuck all over my window. There were like 20 of them. I called the biggest two into the bathroom and they proudly exclaimed, "Mommy, we found airplanes and they're sticky." My daughter had two hanging off the side of her head like earrings, and my son had them as elbow pads and knee pads. I have a point. It is this. If you don't know what something is, if you don't identify it correctly, then all you can do is misuse it. The Greek word translated as masterpiece is poema, which means a work made by God. And we derive our English word poem from this word, so I think it's kind of fun to think of myself as God's beautiful poem. I think you should too. Masterpieces, poems, they are well thought out. They don't happen on accident, they are on purpose. I am not by chance or on accident. I was divinely inspired. You were divinely inspired. And God has decided that this little slice of history, his story, is the part that needed you and your gifts in it. These 70 or 80 or 90 or 100 years is the tiny slice that's suited for you to be alive, swinging the world by its tail with your special talents and gifts. God decided that there was no better time for you to be born with your unique gifts and talents and skills and personality written out perfectly in his poem. You're perfect the way that you're crafted, the way that you are written. Back to maxi pads. If you don't know what something is, if you don't identify it correctly, then all you can do is misuse it. This might sound obvious or trite, but you are remarkably special. And if you don't see yourself that way, well, it's kind of like mistaking a maxi pad for an earring. Same. Motherhood is glorious and hard and glorious and hard. It's exciting. It's mundane. It's refining and healing and revealing. It makes me holier. It makes me lose my mind. My kids, they push me to my furthest edge and then they pull me right back in multiple times a day. I had a moment in my young motherhood where it became very obvious that I needed some hobbies or something. It went like this. We had 4 kids, 4 and under, and so taking them places was sometimes a challenge. I mean, heck, getting them into the car required a certain amount of athleticism, but the grocery store, doctor's appointments, church, all required grit. Well, there was this one Sunday for church that we bribed them with Chuck E. Cheese afterwards, in exchange for their excellent behavior, of course. Short version, it didn't work. Long version, Blaze got in a meowing contest with another kid. Amelia got stuck under the pew, and Silas laughed at the person singing the responsorial psalm. And in his best 4-year-old kid whisper that isn't a whisper at all, said, "Welp, she tried her best." As we were leaving and we broke the news to the kids that we would not be going to Chuck E. Cheese, I realized something. Something very, very sad. I realized that I really wanted to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Little kids had totally ruined it for me. I really like skee ball and cheese pizza, and that little production they put on might be the closest I got to live entertainment in a while. I mean, this could have been a nice night out on the town, but no. I got into the car and I angrily clicked my seatbelt and I wondered what had become of me. Hot tears stung my eyes. And it was then that I knew. As much as I adored my kids and cherished the gift of motherhood, as much purpose-giving honor my motherhood gave my life, I knew that I needed to remember. I needed to remember who I was and what I loved, how I was written. I needed to remember in order to believe that I hadn't lost myself like maybe I feared. I was just buried under some goldfish, diapers, Spider-Man costumes, princess dresses. That's okay. A Bob the Builder excavation might be in order, but that was okay. Yes, we can. Friends, there is something that when you do it, it makes you feel alive. Is it music? Is it dance? Is it playing with numbers or solving a problem, exploring the woods, reading a book, holding a baby? Is it cooking something delicious or writing something you like, taking a picture, leading a meeting? That thing that we can't name except to call it an inner tug that lets us know for certain that there is more to this life. Where do you feel it? Wherever it is, do it and look for God there. However your poem was written, it is so, so beautiful. There is someone in my life who lives this out in neon. Jen Fulwiler is nurturing a family, raising young people into disciples, and pursuing dreams like it's her job. Because it is. I can't wait for you to hear from this Wonder Woman who wants us all to know that there is a flame within us burning bright. Worthy is the self-help book for Christians who are tired of the mediocre swipe right and left style of dating, who want to change their dating standard and create a bold, fearless life full of passion and purpose. It doesn't matter if you're a high school girl, someone's grandma, or any age in between, Worthy is designed for you. In a vulnerable yet witty how-to guide, Clarissa Christensen takes you down her own path that led to the rock bottom of bad dates, low self-worth, and an unfulfilled life overrun by depression and anxiety. In these 13 easy-to-read chapters, you will learn how to identify and overcome the insecurities that are holding you back, establish a dating standard you love, grow a supportive friend tribe, dive deeper into your relationship with God, live unapologetically. By the end, you'll learn who you are and what you want out of life and how to get it. Head to her website, igniteyourworth.com, to purchase your copy today or even request a signed copy. Hello, Jen Fulwiler. I am so excited to have you on the show. You are a stand-up comic. You are a best-selling author. You're a mom of 6, and so many people know you as a Sirius XM talk show host. More people might know you from your books, which have won so many awards and accolades, like maybe minus the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, like literally, this is like Amazon top 25. This is Wall Street Journal bestseller. So many accolades. One of them got you on the Today Show. So exciting. And then a lot of us know you because of your recent endeavors of stand-up comedy, because you quit your talk show host stable job in the middle of a pandemic, as one does. And you started your very own podcast and you dove headfirst into stand-up comedy. So very exciting. All of these things are getting major accolades as well. There's still time for the Nobel Peace Prize, I suppose. Yes. You're young. But this is such an honor. I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. I'm a huge fan of yours, so this is very exciting.
Okay, so one way that I have people introduce themselves a little bit to listeners is to tell us something that you love. Tell us a little bit about who and what you love.
Oh, who and what I love, just in general in life?
In general.
Oh, gosh. Well, I say in my comedy set that I love drinking alone, but I think that you're trying to get me to go a different direction here.
Listen, Jen, this is your episode. You go wherever the heck you want.
Yeah, I love sitting in my garage and just, having a drink and watching TikToks. To be honest, it's probably my greatest love in life.
Next thing you know, 4 hours have gone right by.
Yeah, and I say, like, the great thing about my lifestyle is no one judges me for it. I mean, I've got 6 kids. We live in a 1,900 square foot 3-bedroom house. Mm-hmm. When I was single and I did that, people would be like, "That is dangerous. You need to get that under control." Now people are like, "That's self-care." That makes a lot of sense, actually. So
it's all about perspective. That's fantastic.
Okay. My big thing is I love keeping life really wild and interesting with my family. There's this false dichotomy in our culture that you have to be boring the moment you have children in order, especially if you want to be a good parent. Especially mothers. We associate good mothers with boring. And we don't even realize we think that, but we do. And that was one of the reasons when I was younger, I didn't want to have kids. And that was true for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But one of them was just, I was like, well, I can't have a boring life. I'm just not wired that way. I can't do it. So I thought I didn't want kids. But what I've realized is life is so much more fun and interesting when you do it with your squad, when you do it with your family. I know you know that from all the fun stuff you guys do. And so I would say that is just really, it makes me come alive. It's such a love to combine doing risky, crazy, interesting things with my 6 kids, with my husband, with bring my mom involved. You know, it just makes me come alive to live like that.
I have chills listening because you model it so well. And I couldn't agree more that like, I think that there is this perception that somehow good motherhood is this really selfless endeavor. Now, don't get me wrong. I have donated myself a lot. However, I think my healthiest maternal self is one that is self-full. You know, it's where I have really invested in the things that make me more me, and then I can pour out so much more because of it. And then bringing people along, how fun is that? I love seeing your kids at your shows.
And, you know, I would also add that, so one of the things I talk about is having a blue flame. And that's a God-given gift that you are meant to use and share with the world. And it gives you energy when you do it. It could be something that makes money, like starting a business, or it could be something that's just in your home, like really getting into cooking and making really high quality meals for your family. So your blue flame, it's just anything that you create with love to share with whoever God sends into your life. And so I would say that when you use your blue flame, it makes life exciting. It makes you more you. But I would say it is also an act of selflessness, even though it feels self-full, as you say, because it fills you up so much. It makes your life so exciting. And yet it's also selfless at the same time because it requires that you set aside your ego and that you serve and that you do what you're called to do. And so it's this beautiful thing where you are serving and loving even while you are feeling so filled up and just like you are absolutely your best self and you're full of self-care and all of that. It's a beautiful system.
Oh, it really is. And you know, you and I are both passionate about this. And I know that you know, because we're surrounded by our peers, and it's people who have lost their identity within the identity of their children or their families, and yes, that is a very significant part of me, my family, and this motherhood that I'm so blessed, you know, to be able to, you know, try to do to the best of my ability. But the thing that makes me the best at it is remembering who God made me to be and knowing that there is something in you. And I love that you make the distinction that it doesn't have to be this big moneymaker. It doesn't have to be sexy. It doesn't have to be on a stage. Take the picture, hike in the woods, throw the football, solve the puzzle, lead the meeting, solve the problem, whatever. But there is something that just fills you up. I love the question of what would you lose sleep for? You know, what is, I mean, besides TikTok, right?
I like that.
But what's the thing that would, you know, kind of make you lose track of time or forget to eat or, you know, the thing that you get
and
lost
also,
in.
Allison, per this, you brought up something really important that so many of our peers feel like they've lost themselves. And unfortunately, they feel like that's virtuous. This idea that I have no life for myself. I never carve out time to use my blue flame. I think it's selfish or bad or something to explore who I really am. I think that would be too prideful. All those mentalities. And yet then we turn around and tell our kids to discern their calling in life and be their best selves and be who they were meant to be. It's like, well, wait a minute. You're not modeling that. And as we know, there are a lot of studies that your kids tend to turn out like what you have modeled for them, not what you told them to do.
Absolutely.
So if you have lost yourself and you think you're a bad person, if you go try to find yourself and use your blue flame, guess what? That's what your kids are going to end up doing too.
Yes. Thank you. Well, that was, that introduction got deep pretty quick. We were like, you know, supposed to just be shooting the breeze. So Jen, this is a lifetime ago, but a long time ago, I moved to College Station and let's even back up a little bit further. I was keeping a blog as a baby book. And this is, you know, circa, 2008. But I think a lot of people kept blogs because they wrote. Well, I wrote because I kept a blog. And so it was this rhythm in my life. There was this discipline that kept me returning to this space over and over and over again. And it became somewhat of a blue flame. Like I started to really recognize myself in it. I would, steal moments to try to do it well. And so I started writing. And then because it was circa 2008 and 40 people were following, I thought, well, I should write a book.
Yeah. You're like, the fame. I have to do something with this. Yeah.
And so, but I did. In little grabbed moments during nap time or while breastfeeding, I henpecked out a book. And as I moved to College Station, I was a convert to Catholicism. I was becoming a mother of a big family, and I was writing. And person after person would say, do you know Jen Fulwiler? Do you know Jen Fulwiler? Do you know Jen Fulwiler? And I'm like, listen, you're the 11th person that's asked me that, so I guess I should. So I look you up. I fall in love immediately, of course. I send a DM, and you and I actually had a couple of exchanges many, many moons ago.
No, wait. DM on what platform? On the blogging platform? What,
I don't know. I
was
think
it
maybe
email?
Yeah, I don't know.
What was your blog called?
Oh, no, you wouldn't have known that. Because it was like runneth over. I don't know. It was something very Christian woman cheesy.
Oh, anyways, that's incredible. That's so cool.
Yes, it is so cool. And we exchanged like a couple of words. You were very friendly and polite. But then now flash forward and here we are.
Isn't
it great? So it means a lot to me to finally not just meet up with you professionally because I've been to a show, but to also kind of think about back then and thinking what I thought I knew of you. And then to see that that's true and to really develop a friendship. I'm really, really grateful.
It is so exciting. And I just have to jump in and say, I just noticed this mug I've been drinking from has bad words on it.
Oh.
I was so busy with getting my kids out the door this morning. I didn't know what mug I grabbed. Well, so when your team edits this, I will cover the mug with my hand next time I drink out of it.
I don't know.
But for any previous shots of me drinking from the mug.
Yeah. We're all zooming in now, Jen. It would have flown right past us, but
okay. This is so, one of my comedy friends gave me the mug as an encouragement, and I did not realize that's the one I grabbed. So yeah, sorry if I've scandalized you.
Okay, well, listen, the people listening are going to die, so you just have to tell us now. We'll believe. Okay. What does it
do
say?
You want to see it?
Yes, yeah, we need to.
Okay, so here's the mug. Uh-huh. It says.
Okay, it keeps going. I see. Okay, so first I see bad. She's twirling, okay? So I see bad, and then I see ass, and then she keeps going, and it does in fact say bitch. Okay, so we are
But I was holding it in a way that you just see the last two words, which is so weird. I'm destroying your podcast. I am so sorry. So yeah, this is my life.
Here we
are.
What?
This is like a perfect tableau of what it's like to be a mom in comedy, that one of my comedy friends gave it to me, but now we're trying to have a wholesome mom conversation, but here I am with my scandalous mug.
And the worlds are colliding and we're all here for it. I love it. Okay, so Jen, speaking of worlds colliding, we have just a lot of things that line up pretty well. I have heard you call yourself an atheist. Okay.
Previously, not
now.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. Yes. Thank you for that little tiny clarification. Yes. So a former atheist. And I would like to know exactly what this means for you, because I think there's a spectrum. Do you know what I mean? It's like, was there a very formal rejection? Were you someone who you just didn't think was necessarily God's type? Were you raised in a culturally Christian family? I want to know how far the leap was, Jen. I'm dramatic.
I was all the way as far to the atheist spectrum as you could be. Okay. I was an atheist from childhood. My dad was an atheist. Okay. My mom wasn't as much, but she just didn't talk about religion. But my dad was a big atheist. And so he very specifically raised me that there is nothing spiritual. There is nothing else out there. It's a strict atheist materialist worldview, meaning there's nothing else. It is the material world and that's it. And that I was raised that way. From being a baby, I did not wonder if God exists. Yeah, I never prayed as a child. I didn't really know who Jesus was exactly. I remember I was in late high school or college. I did not know what Easter celebrated. I didn't know what that word meant.
Yeah. Wow.
I thought it was just it's like in the spring and you get together with your family. I didn't know that there was a cultural meaning to it. And I remember at some point when I started at A&M, but I graduated from UT. So I was in College Station, bunch of Christians there. And someone said something about Easter having something to do with the crucifixion or something like that. And I was like, well, that's a weird holiday to celebrate. And I was like, I can't understand you guys in your mythology. And I actually left A&M. I left College Station to go to UT only because it was too religious. That's the only reason that I left A&M. I was like, I can't be around these Christians.
Wow. Yeah.
And like I didn't know the Our Father. It sounded familiar probably at like a funeral or something. I'd heard it.
Well, if you watch like The Godfather or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I didn't know it or anything until, I was like 26 and was not at all familiar with the Our Father. I couldn't have told you any words beyond Our Father.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's pretty atheist.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so something really transformative must have happened. When Christianity started sounding reasonable to you, were you appalled?
It was a slow progression. I was sort of exploring and I was just reading books and it was just sort of one step at a time. It was like,
did C.S. Lewis get to you too?
Oh yeah. It was C.S. Lewis, and it actually started with a Protestant guy, Lee Strobel. He wrote a really good book called The Case for Christ. Yeah. And I always tell people, when people hear that, they're like, oh, I'm going to go buy that for my atheist son, and then he won't be atheist anymore. You have to understand, I was in a place of readiness. I had my first child, and that really made me ask some big questions about whether atheism was true. I could have read that same book a year before, and it would have had zero impact on me, but I was in a place of openness. Yeah. And so The Case for Christ kind of got me thinking. And then, and then I got it. Mere Christianity was like, boom, it was that really hit me.
Yeah. It's interesting that I feel like so many people want to strong arm, some argument or some people's emotions. If I could just make you feel this, when the truth is we can't argue anyone into an encounter with Christ.
Right. Exactly.
And so there's gentle ways, to lead or questions to ask. I remember I was walking with a friend who didn't believe, a dear, dear, lovely soul. I love her so much. And we were walking and she she almost kind of threw her hands up in the air in frustration and was like, I just don't get it. Like, how do you believe? And I really felt her frustration alongside her. Like I understood how frustrating it was for her that there's, she's surrounded by these kind people that don't seem to be asking difficult questions. And, she just couldn't make it work for her. And it was one of those things where it was like, how when you walk outside and the weather's really nice and there's not a cloud in the sky and it's easy to breathe. And you just had maybe a sweet moment with your husband that morning and your kids are all clean or something. I don't know. But it's like these things when they're all right in their place, like, who do you think? Right. For me, it was like this moment of gratitude. And I think motherhood can really do that too. Just there's a tenderness that comes along with motherhood. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was about love. I just thought, I think the love that I feel for this child and that has come into my family since he was born, I think it comes from somewhere. I think it has a source. And that was the big thing that got me thinking.
That's really beautiful. And so when you did decide to become a Christian, you became a Catholic Christian. Yeah. And when you became a Catholic Christian, this cracks me up when you say it, but the Catholics, the cussers, the drinkers, and the irresponsible family planners.
Yeah, that was kind of the stereotype. And by the way, my husband converted at the same time I did, and so I'd been atheist, and he was a very non-practicing Southern Baptist, and so the only thing that he and I had in common in terms of religion is that we were both anti-Catholic. That is the only view that we shared on religion going into our marriage.
And yet when you became Catholic, you went all in, Jen. You went all in. So I would love to know something that you love about your faith or your tradition or your home, your faith life, however you incorporate your religion into your family. What's something you love about the Catholic faith?
One of the things I love about it is that you can still do it even when you're a disaster. I mean, obviously being raised atheist, old habits die hard. The idea of having a relationship with Jesus and having all these warm feelings about God and all that, that does not come easily for me. And, I still have moments of I wouldn't say doubt in the sense I've never doubted that it's true. I just did too much research, I feel very confident that this is true. But I do have moments of, I guess, what you would call spiritual dryness. That's almost the norm for me. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for, the Eucharist. As Catholics, we believe in the real presence, that God is really there. So you are having a physical encounter with God, even when you can't get there emotionally. It's still happening. Yeah. And when you go to mass, it's not like the rah-rah tambourines, you have to feel it. There's a laser light show. You're kind of expected to be crying.
Fog machines.
A lot of my friends are Protestant and evangelical. And when I go to their some of their events, everyone's very emotional. And I'm just standing there like a statue. I mean, I'm like, should I raise my hands? I really don't know. I'm not feeling this. And so I love that you can, I don't want to say go through the motions like it's a bad thing, because obviously I always aspire to have a better relationship with God. But when that's not there and I'm not feeling it, I can still get just as much out of the mass, because it's not emotion is not required to get the full experience out of what we do at church.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I have struggled recently. I feel like our whole world has collectively been through a lot, and that's taken its toll on me for certain. I feel like I've had all these grief responses, and my faith life has certainly suffered. But one of the things that I'm loving is normalizing the talk around doubt, the talk around spiritual dryness, and then looking back and being pulled back to Scripture to see that there were disciples that were right there. And it says
Mother Teresa.
They doubted.
I mean,
I mean, the disciples who watched him heal, who watched him, do all these amazing things. And it says they doubted. And it says that some of them believed and some of them doubted. And there they were side by side, having witnessed the same things. Some of them believed, some of them doubted. And so I've taken that as my call to borrow faith from people when I need to, and the Holy Spirit's going to work it out that we don't all doubt on the same day, right?
Right. I love it. That's a great quote. That is a really good quote.
So I'm going to borrow from you and you borrow from me, and we'll just take turns being the body. Okay. So Jen, I had 4 kids in 4 years, no twins.
Wow.
And when I mention that, if I'm, speaking or something, I have started to think of it as this little information grenade. So it's you throw it and then you wait, so you say the thing and then you wait and then there it is. It's the,
oh yeah.
When you have had 6 kids in 8 years, no twins.
Yeah. Correct.
And when you say that at your shows, people are actually losing consciousness. Like people are passing out. We're having to attend to the people because people cannot fathom
when I do comedy
thing.
In Austin, where people they're surprised by that and they don't know who I am. I mean, it's like they're worried it's contagious. I mean, they freak out.
Don't everybody bombard the fire exits.
Yeah,
it's like yelling fire in a theater. That's hilarious.
I know. Yeah, it's an intense reaction every time.
So tell us a little bit about your family planning. Was this the plan? Did you always want a big family? How
we used there are different methods of natural family planning, and we use the Fulwiler guesstimation method, which is not super reliable. It has an 80% inaccuracy rate. No, to be totally honest, we missed the NFP class because we were already married when we converted to Catholicism. But I really was convinced on the issue of contraception. And the other thing is, I in my second pregnancy, I was diagnosed with a very serious clotting disorder, and it caused a lot of problems because my blood is way more likely to clot when I'm pregnant. So I got a deep vein thrombosis in my second pregnancy. I had to give myself shots in the stomach every day with every subsequent pregnancy for the blood thinners. And then in the 6th pregnancy, they stopped working, which is really scary. And I got bilateral pulmonary embolisms. My lungs filled with blood clots. I should not have survived it. I mean, it is that the ER doctor was floored. He was floored at how many clots were in my lungs and how huge they were, and the fact that I was still alive. He just couldn't believe it. So that was a disaster, and that is why that's our youngest child. And we didn't do sterilization. We did the natural family planning thing to avoid pregnancy. After that, we just had to actually take it seriously after that. And so it was not an easy road. But I was convinced, and I just came to the attitude, I don't believe in the dichotomy of planned versus unplanned pregnancy. To me, it just makes no sense, because even if you're quote unquote trying, you don't know if it's going to happen any given month. And contraception has a fairly high failure rate in terms of actual use. So I've just always looked at it like, if you're engaging in the act that creates babies, you might get a baby, and you shouldn't be surprised by that. So I just looked at it like, yeah, I mean, we'll try to avoid if we feel overwhelmed, which we always did, or if we're broke, or if we have no health insurance, we'll try to avoid. But whatever, if a baby comes along, that's a gift, and that's incredible, and whatever, that was our attitude after we converted.
So in raising a big family, what are some of your, by the way, I feel like you and I share, I really value adventure. I really value a great story, and I want my life to be this great story. I want to show up to heaven spent. And totally. What better way to do that than to bring all these young people that you love more than anything into the world? Will you tell us some of your favorite parts of motherhood, some of the most joyful things?
Oh, I honestly don't even know where to begin. And I will say the fuel behind everything I do is that I feel like I dodged a bullet, in the sense that I came from a culture where women were encouraged not to have kids. Kids were seen as a burden. I never planned to have kids. Interestingly, my parents did not plan to have kids. Somehow I know that I'm a contraception failure. My mom's IUD failed. I don't know why I have this information, but how poetic that I ended up becoming Catholic and having all these.
Oh my gosh.
Kids.
Wait, are you an only child?
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, I didn't know that. No way.
I knew that.
That's incredible. High five, virtual high five.
I know it. I knew that about you and forgot. I knew that we had one more thing. Okay. Yes.
That's incredible. Okay. So we're both only children raising these big families. My husband is an only child. So my kids won't have cousins or aunts or uncles or anything. So I don't even know where to begin. It's like we just have this really fun squad. And I see that, we see that on your social media, that it seems like your family has fun together, genuinely. Yeah. And our family is the same way. And I will say, by the way, I'm not much of a baby toddler person. My kids were adorable. I loved them to pieces. Yeah. But that was a very hard time for me when they were little, because I am not someone who is called to work with babies and toddlers in any way. So I cannot say that I looked forward to every day when they were little, because that I have the polar opposite temperament of what you need to be good with babies and toddlers. However, once they get older, man, I'm in the zone. I mean, this is my thing, teen problems, and we've had plenty of problems that comes with teens. It has not been a walk in the park. We've had very, very serious issues. Whatever. I will take that over screaming toddler meltdowns any day. So I think just the fact that I walk into my house and I look around, my kids are ages 18 down to 9. And I say, I like these people. They are fun. We are having fun, and they are as crazy as I and my husband are. And I think especially being an only child, it's like, wow, I finally have a squad. I have a team. We are doing life together. And even our hard times, like my dad died suddenly in the middle of my first comedy tour, but I had my team to go through that with me. I had my kids were grieving as much as I was, because they were super close to him too. And so the good times are better. The bad times are better. Just everything is better when you're doing it with your team.
Gosh, yes. One of the we do not have a perfect family. We do not have a perfect home, but I think we laugh in it more than we do anything else.
Yeah.
And to me, there is something about a shared experience with my kids that we both find hilarious, because I value adventure and I value laughter. And to me, that shared experience, it's like the skies part. It is like this little like hallelujah moment of like, thank you. Thank you. I feel so great. And to also, I think that is a really good point of, I always longed for that. There's so many things I love about being an only child. So many of the things that I like about myself, I even attribute to, being an only child. And yet I've really, really crave, the chaos, really.
Right. Yeah. The chaos. I know. Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like having a huge family is a countercultural phenomenon, right? In America. Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot of that going on. Right. And so having a big family and being a professional is pretty countercultural in that countercultural subculture. Right. So it's fine. You have a big family. That's a little weird. But if you have a big family, then you are probably, there's probably a pretty neat and tidy stereotype for you that you are like knees and elbows busting down all over the place. And I love that we started this off talking about Blue Flame, because you have said, yes, that's me. And yes, that's a big part of me. And yes, that's going to get a lot of me, but that does not define me. So can you tell us a little bit about your own personal Blue Flame and how you recognized that and allowed yourself to chase it?
Yeah, and I think your blue flames can change over the years. In the book I wrote about it, I was talking about how my grandfather was an engineer, and that really was his blue flame. Not just he built refineries, but managing people and being a mentor and really taking care of them on a personal level. But he had a massive heart attack that almost took his life. And then shortly after that, he ate some bad food and got hepatitis from food.
My goodness.
And between those two things, he was forced into early retirement. And then he ended up becoming an incredible self-taught chef. And this was all before I was born. So I only knew my grandfather, the chef, and he was extraordinary. He lived to age 100. He was cooking gourmet meals for us up to age 98. I mean, unbelievable. He would, at 97, he did this massive catered lunch for my mom. Like, it was unbelievable. So cool. So first of all, I should say your blue flame can change. It's not like, you just have one if some door closes. But I just realized it's same as you. When I discovered blogging, I love words. That's my thing. I think also because of my childhood, this is an example of maybe something that, the not great parts of life, really good things come out of them. I was an only child and we moved a lot, and I was always kind of the ugly duckling, like bullied kid. I didn't have friends. I spent so many years of my childhood very alone. Both my parents worked. I was a latchkey kid, so I just go home alone and I had no friends. And this is before cell phones, I couldn't get on TikTok. Yeah. And so, I mean, what do you do when you're in that situation? Well, I did a whole lot of, first of all, I did just watch TV all the time. So this wasn't
lots of Three's Company.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, all of the 80s shows, I've seen every episode more than once because I would just sit there and watch TV. But when I finally got bored of the television, I would read and I would write. And it really gives me a thrill and I also tend to kind of live in my head, which is a downside. It's something I need to work on. It's not always great. Yeah. But the positive side of it is, boy, do I have a lot of thoughts. I think I have 1,000x more thoughts than other people because I tend to live in my head. And I love taking them and putting them in writing. And so when I started doing that on my blog, it like I had my 40 fans and I was like, I'm famous. This is incredible. And I also realized that the idea of gathering an audience was for me. A lot of people, especially in the Christian world and the Catholic world, they struggle with that idea. Like, am I being worldly? This is pride? Yeah. Right. Well, let me tell you, gathering an audience is the most humbling, miserable experience you will ever go through. I mean, we as Catholics, we have the prayer, the litany of humility. Guys, my life is the litany of humility. Let me tell you, you've got haters, you've got the pressure to keep it up, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, if anyone has ever felt that call to sort of put themselves out there and gather an audience, I think it's from God, and I don't think it's pride, because I know you know, Allison, nothing will humble you faster. Like there's no pride in anyone who has a public presence. So I started to think, I think this is kind of for me to have more of a, like sharing my story publicly, being a witness to what I learned. And like I said earlier, I feel like I dodged a bullet that I almost didn't have kids. I thought that I was going to live some very secular life where you find happiness by isolating yourself from everyone, having no obligations to anyone. And it literally makes me nauseated when I imagine myself going that route. And again, not because it was some call and what was meant for me, but just because I bought into stupid secular ideas about what leads to happiness. And it chills me so much that I almost went down that path, that my whole public presence, starting with the blog and going, and then radio, and then now into comedy and writing books and all that, really, it's all just been, if I can save one young woman from the fate that almost befell me, isolating herself and avoiding family because she thinks that's what leads to happiness, then my whole mission has been worth it.
Yeah. Wow. So women chasing flames and becoming fully themselves and knocking down stereotypes, these things make people feel things. I know you know that. And so I would imagine that you have had to develop a pretty thick skin when it comes to haters who think that you should be doing other things. How does criticism affect you? How do you stay healthy with a really big platform and a lot of opinions surrounding what you're doing?
This is another example of when you go through something hard, look for ways that God is going to bring good out of it, because he will. I was just bullied so much and so badly that I was 15 when I stopped caring what people think about me. And like someone saying something on the internet is not the same as 5 kids at my horrible junior high cornering me and saying they were going to stab me to death because I was so ugly, and like they were a rough crowd, so I thought they might do it. When you've been through that, it's just like, I don't care what some anonymous account on the internet, or I've had like former friends go on their Instagram and like write nasty stuff about me. I mean, it's that's really discouraging, but
that's horrible.
It's nothing like what I went through when I was younger. And I think the people listening can think of that too. I mean, I'm sure everyone has gone through something hard in life, and God will use it towards your blue flame. He'll use it towards your mission. And so for me, that was a very natural and normal state from the moment I started my first blog. I actually, back when I was an atheist, I had websites too. And that was a natural and normal state for me to just not care, because I'm used to it. Like people having nasty opinions about me. Like that's my life. Like that's a Tuesday for me,
I feel I'm a little tender right now. I think it's just after the holidays, and I don't know, my anxiety is a little high right now. Not like specifically in this moment, but I'm more emotional the last couple of days than I operate. But like I feel rage. I feel rage about people who bullied you when you were young. I'd like some names. I feel rage about friends whoever you are, if you're listening, because you probably follow her.
They might be, actually.
Listen, you need to deal with me too then, okay? We have a problem. I think that it's pretty common that people's talent can take them places where their character can't follow. It's like their talent can outpace
that's a great
their
phrase.
Character, and you have had to really work on yourself as your platform has grown to see this clearly. You have had to get so in touch with who you are and who your God is, and the difference in between, taking risks. And that's the thing. We kind of had something go wonky on TikTok a week ago, and so we've been dealing with a lot too. But I feel so steadied by my real life community, the people who know me in real life. It doesn't mean that I couldn't have done something different or better. It doesn't mean that I can't reflect on the feedback that I'm getting. But it doesn't have to define me. It can, It can maybe define a moment, but not my whole entire self. So,
and I think that rootedness that you described, that you have a real life community, not just your family, but in-person friends. And I think what that ultimately extends from is in any work that you do, you cannot turn it into an idol. It cannot be your be all end all. And when you don't make it an idol, well, then it just comes naturally that your work is just kind of over here. It's one part of your life, but your real life is laughing with your kids in the kitchen. Or for people who don't have kids, it's going to the thing that you're running at the church, the Bible study, and gathering people and seeing the joy in their faces and just realizing like, okay, what happens over here in this work that I'm trying to do? That's fine, and I'll work hard at it, but it is not my be all end all.
That's right.
And when I've seen people really start to go insane. And, in the comedy industry, there are a lot of drug use and things like that.
Yeah.
And what goes into that is when it's your idol. All you care about is whether this thing works out. Well, that's when you can end up in a really bad place and criticism starts to get to you. And that is not a good place to be.
Yeah. It's hard to watch, frankly. Someone who's
really
grasping.
And you can see it. I've seen it with some people I follow. They sort of had mid-level success, and I watched them blow up.
Yeah.
And I watched them start to spiral. Interesting observation, Allison. I've noticed when someone has hit fame, but they're starting to spiral, very often they start wearing sunglasses indoors. Watch this pattern. You'll start to see, they'll be on their podcast. They're like sitting in a studio like you and I are, but they'll have sunglasses on. That's always a sign. I don't know why, but it's always a sign that someone is spiraling. So Allison, if I ever like hit it massively big and I'm doing my media tour, but I'm wearing sunglasses indoors, you have to show up at my house and save me. You have to like take away my phone, shut down my social media.
It's time. It's time, honey.
Yeah, it's time.
Cut it,
Jen.
I love it. Okay, so stand-up comedy. What in the world? That sounds so terrifying to me. And there's probably a part of you that it was terrifying for as well. But sometimes that there's this certain level of excitement where you're like, is this the dumbest thing I've ever done or the holiest? It's always like that place where I'm like, oh, I think this is the right place. Okay, so stand-up comedy, how did you like trip into that? What in the world?
Okay, so I'd noticed way going back to my blog days that what I always got complimented on is people said, you make me laugh and therefore you ease my burdens. I just had so many moms back in the blogging days saying, I'm struggling. We just had a baby. It was diagnosed with special needs. I'm having a very hard time.
Yeah.
And so at the time we had a really bad scorpion infestation in my house. In general, my blog was kind of serious reflections on faith. And I really thought, I was like, man, this is so deep and it's so profound. Those posts wouldn't really do that well. Then I would flip out about a scorpion being in my house, and it would go viral. I mean, it would get a lot of traction. And then I saw and then in my books, whenever I used humor, I got complimented on that. Books led me to radio, and I did a 2-hour solo daily national show. So every weekday it was 2 hours. And I tried not to overuse guests and calls. So it was a lot of me talking.
Yeah.
And I would just riff and try to be funny. And people started calling in and saying, this is stand-up. You're doing stand-up. And I thought, well, I wouldn't do stand-up, but I try to, I think humor eases people's burdens. And then I started looking at the comedy industry and I realized that I enjoyed watching stand-up comedy, but so much of it is extremely vulgar, which I'll be honest, Allison, I don't mind. I mean, some of the comics that I follow, they're not keeping it clean all the time. I don't judge that. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
However, there's no diversity. It's like, that's all that's out there. The other thing is oddly enough, it is so in comedy, there's a known thing that some topics are hack. For example, airline food. Nobody makes jokes about airline food anymore because people in the comedy industry would be like, you don't know what you're doing. You're an amateur. That's hack. Nobody makes those jokes anymore.
Got it.
Anti-Catholic jokes are becoming hack. because they are so common. I mean, when I go up on shows in Austin, I'm not exaggerating. I can't remember the last time that I was at a show and some comic didn't trash the Catholic Church. I mean, it was like insane. So anyway, I was just like, comedy really does relieve burdens, but I just can't find anyone who is speaking to my perspective, who is not, openly anti-Catholic and trashing my religion, or that I could share this with. Because honestly, there were a couple that I'm like, okay, this is so funny, but it's so filthy. Yeah. I don't know anyone who I could send this to who I think they'd be okay with what this person's talking about. Right. And so that just got me thinking. And then it was this very kind of sudden, I really believe it was a call from God. It was very sudden. It was one day. And it was like, stand-up comedy. This is it. This is what you're doing. And I've never looked back. And that was years ago. And it was really a like day before and day after thing that God just told me to go into stand-up comedy. And I have never looked back from that moment. And again, part of my mission is I want this worldview of saying you can be wild and crazy and spontaneous and have adventure and have fun and have kids and have a lot of kids for that matter. Yeah. And I want that witness out there. And I think the way that God is calling me to do it is through comedy. And then it also relieves people's burdens. When a friend of mine, she has 2 kids with special needs and they're very severe and it requires round the clock care and her life is very hard. And when I think about quitting, I think, well, if I quit, who's going to do a comedy special for her? Because she's a devout believer. Yeah, she's not uptight. She's not a prude, but she doesn't want to hear about the most vulgar sexual content you can possibly imagine. And literally every other word is the F word. I mean, she's not a prude and she wouldn't judge a comic who did that, but that's also it's just not what she wants at the end of the day. And so I thought, I mean, if I quit, who is going to do the comedy special that relieves her burdens? So that was the call, and that's why I do it.
I love it so much. There's something so thrilling to me about watching someone run in their lane. It's like there's like this certain kind of sprint that's like, I don't know, I'm not a runner, so I can only guess at what it feels like. But it's like that long stride, and it's like your lungs feel really capable, but like you are just sprinting and it is so much fun to watch. I have one more question just because I'm genuinely curious, and then I'd like to know something that you're hopeful for. But what guidelines do you use for writing jokes? I know that like punching up versus punching down is, probably a general rule of thumb when it comes to making people laugh. But like what strategies do you use? How do you create? What's your process?
I really have to, I just sort of scan my mind for where there is tension, because comedy is ultimately about tension. If there's no tension, there's nothing funny. So I tend to go through my life and just think, where is there tension? That's pretty easy since I don't have a temperament for running, a household. So I just think, where's there tension? Where's there tension? And then
if there's tension for you, there's likely tension for other people too, right? I mean, this is shared.
Right. And I try to keep it clean in the sense that, I mean, you've talked to me off the air, I don't use perfectly clean language in real life, but I do on stage because I want you to be able to invite anyone. I want it to be a community building experience. Yeah. And actually, wait, can I tell you something that I haven't told anyone else? So this is like a big reveal on your podcast. Okay. The Cap City Comedy Club in Austin, Texas, one of the most respected comedy clubs literally in the world. Anyone in comedy would say it's top 5. Like, that's not even in question. Yeah. I have pitched to them that they need to do a cleaner comedy night where you book comics that are like clean. And so it's community building. You can invite anyone. It's high quality comedy. Yes. High quality, but not going filthy. Allison, they gave me the show. No. I can book whoever I want. I can perform. Yes. and it's my show. And it's at Cap City freaking Comedy Club. We're calling it Primetime Comedy Night. They let me name it. That I have full control. They're literally just giving me the space. They have been unbelievably cool about it, Allison.
Stop it.
Yes. They're like, Jen, whatever you want to do, you call it what you want. You book who you want. It's my show.
I have chills
so finally,
all over.
And I'm being so evangelical about it because I'm telling anyone who will listen, this comedy relieves burdens. When people are having a hard time, just simply laughing is one of the ways to feel better. And I have a neighbor who is elderly. She doesn't have a lot of chances to get out. And one day she said to me, she said, gosh, Jenna, since my husband died, I haven't been like a, night out on the town in a year. Gosh, I'd love to go out with you. And I love comedy. I'd love to see some comedy. And Allison, I almost started crying because I was like,
right.
I can't think of a single show to take her to because they're all so filthy. And I was like, God, let me fix this. Give me a show and I will make a show that you can bring your brother who's a diehard comedy fan, but also your elderly neighbor who could use a night out. You can bring her too. And I got that show. The first one is January 25th at Cap City Comedy Club in Austin.
Stop.
And then we'll do more after that. But I'm just
January 25th.
Yes, you should be there, Allison. You should come. It's super, super. It's so meaningful to me because I just believe that clean comedy unites. And I believe in diversity in the industry because currently it's like only filthy material. 99% of live comedy is very, very filthy. And so we just need a little bit of balance there. We need some clean shows in the live comedy industry. And I'm doing it. And I just could not be more thrilled.
I could not be more thrilled with you and for you. I am so proud of you. I'm so grateful for you. You're blazing trails. We are all here for it. Gosh, this was such an honor. Thank you for sharing that here. We'll talk later about how much I can help you promote or whatever. But is there something that you're hopeful for in 2023?
Yes, I am hopeful. It sort of relates to this. I just spent 2 years in the absolute trenches, quitting my job at SiriusXM, which provided benefits for my whole family in the middle of a pandemic. And I quit to do stand-up comedy touring. And so that was a very hard time. I almost quit so many times. It was more like a daily habit, me almost quitting. I mean, I cannot emphasize how close I came to quitting and how many times that happened. Yeah. And I made some big changes. Another thing I have not said publicly, you're getting a lot of reveals on your podcast. I got on a very low dose of antidepressants, which I'd never done before. I was very against that. Yeah. But it actually was not for depression. Oddly enough, I was having all these crazy food cravings. I thought it was a serotonin imbalance. So I'm on like the lowest dose. I could stop taking it tomorrow and I wouldn't have any withdrawal. Yeah. But that little tiny dose has just helped me be more intentional about my thoughts. Like it's not that it turned me into a happy person. I'm still, cynical or whatever. But it has allowed me to control my thoughts and like be the person I want to be. Yeah. So all that is to say, I survived almost quitting 1,000 times. Yeah, you did. I did some big scary steps. Honestly, starting on that was one of the scariest things I've ever done because I was so against that kind of thing. And so I am hopeful that a lot of really cool things are going to happen for me and my family, that I passed the test. I didn't quit and I got therapy and I did the hard thing. And so what I want to share is I just sense that a lot of people are in that place right now. I think that a lot of us don't even realize that we are still dealing with the PTSD and the after effects of quarantine and all of that. We think it's over, but I think just psychologically, there is still some residual stuff happening. I know people who they're actually hitting financial hard times now that really kind of started in late 2020. Sure. So I just want to say to anyone listening, what I am hopeful for is that we're not going to quit. You're not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. Whoever's listening is not going to quit. And our faithfulness is going to be rewarded. I think that 2023, not just for me and not just for you, but for everyone listening, is going to be a season of reaping what we have sowed. Yeah. We've done the hard thing. We put in the hard work. And I think that 2023 is a year of harvest of whatever you did with your blue flame, whatever you didn't quit on, or if you quit, that you'll get back to it. Start that thing up again. I just think it's a year of the hard work paying off, not just for me, for a lot of people. So I'm super hopeful about that.
Yeah, gosh, thank you so much. That's just a beautiful place to end. I'm really grateful for the ways that you model all of the things that you preach. And it's really fun to watch. It's really inspiring. So to call you a friend is a really big honor, Jen. I'm really, really grateful for your influence in my life. And to me, you're doing some of the scariest things possible. And it makes me ask those questions. Like, what am I a little bit afraid of? What am I a little, what's that tense place of, holy or foolish? Tell us.
Sometimes we don't know.
Tell us where to follow. Tell us what things to buy. Tell us where to subscribe. Tell us all the things.
Yes. Okay. Instagram is it's one of my favorite places to hang out. I am working on my TikTok, guys. I'm getting Allison. She's helping me right now. Kind of my main thing is Instagram. I'm on the Instagram stories all the time and all that. So Jennifer Fulwiler is my handle over there. I know you can't spell Fulwiler, but if you can get the FUL, then it should. I should pop up.
This is
Jennifer
100% true. I've been spelling it wrong for years, but Google.
My maiden name was Bishop, much easier. So I still struggle with having a hard to spell last name. And my website, you know what? It really needs to be updated, but it will be updated soon. jfcomedytour.com. That's where I have links to shows. Links to my social media, about how you contact me, all of that. So everything is at jfcomedytour.com, and follow me on Instagram as well.
Yes, please grab tickets. The next time Jen is performing, grab tickets, grab a gaggle of girls. It doesn't even, girls, men, women, children. Bring everybody.
Men tend to like my comedy. I will say I get a lot of compliments from the husbands who show up.
Yes, 100%. My husband and I had a blast. So gather a group and go follow along on Instagram. Go buy some books. Anyone that comes on that's an author, I'm like, buy multiple copies so that you have these things as gifts to give people. It's such a thoughtful gift, I think.
Oh yeah, they can search for my name on Amazon as well. Yeah,
yes.
I've got 3 books, one about my conversion. And then, so it was a memoir about my conversion. My second book was a memoir about how I wrote that book. So it was a memoir about writing a memoir, but it's really about how to balance doing what you love with kids. And my third is about how you can do it too. You can find all those books. Just search for, I use my full name, Jennifer, on Amazon. So Jennifer Fulwiler on Amazon.
Yes. Okay. You will not be sad that you purchased any of those. You have made my day. I'm going to just
I know. I'm such a big fan, Allison. I'm so grateful for our friendship. This is incredible. Same. And I can't wait to hang out with you in person too.
Yeah,
we're going to have so much fun.
I'll see you Friday. Okay.
Yeah,
yay.
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you for your time. Have a great workout.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you. Bye. Sinners, saints, sisters, do you need a speaker for your event? Do you need someone to lead your retreat? It would be all my joy to serve and spread God's love to you and the people you gather with compassionate leadership, Bible-based teaching, authentic life stories, and a lot of laughter at heart. You can reach me at sinnersaintsister@gmail.com. Hello, Taylor Schroll.
Hey, Allison.
Okay, so I loved this episode with Jen Fulwiler because you know how sometimes you can kind of get an inkling. As I've started to follow a little bit closer, I'm like, I think I'm going to like you. And then a conversation happens and you're like, and that's set in stone. Yeah. So I feel like that happened. And then yesterday, we all got to hang out together yesterday. And then it was even more in stone. This is a real deal friendship and awesome relationship.
Yeah, there were multiple moments yesterday because y'all were together working and I was just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
I spent half the day at your house, but laying on the sofa while your kid played video games, talking to him,
Yeah. Giving him some tips.
Yeah, exactly. But there were multiple times that y'all said it and there was multiple times that I thought it at different times. It seems like y'all have been friends for years, that y'all have been working together for years. Y'all just hit it off so well and y'all were so courteous to one another.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was great. I really loved this episode too. So I know you and I argue about this sometimes. I feel like you are a very naturally funny person, and I feel like Jen is a very naturally funny person. I feel like I might have funny moments, and they're usually on accident. And so I really admire people that can be quick and humorous on the spot. Do you have any thoughts or wisdom around how I might be funnier?
Oh,
now that I'm in this relationship with you and now her, I feel like I kind of need to be at the top of my game with being quick.
It was interesting. It's funny that most of our arguments do center around this topic of you saying you're not good at something when you actually are. Like, you wouldn't be on my show if I didn't think you were funny. Because that's kind of the whole shtick of my show.
I think I just tolerate you making fun of me.
Yeah. To be fair, a lot of it is at your expense, so there's not a lot of work there. But it was one of the things I saw with both of y'all yesterday, is both of you were like very deferential and saying like, being very, very humble to the point of like, you're actually both better at, like, she kept saying, I'm not a good actor. And you kept saying, oh, I'm not funny. And I'm like,
yeah,
you just acted in a funny skit.
Totally.
Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I see that. I get that. Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is the same kind of thing. I think you just have to do it.
Yeah.
Because you can do it. And the same way that like you started with when you started speaking. You were a writer first.
Yeah.
But you were good at speaking, but you kind of held back. Right?
Yeah, cool. Okay, so as someone who's kind of tiptoeing into comedy, what is some good advice to give a comedian? Like, are there any tricks of the trade?
Tricks of the trade. I think a lot of it is speed.
Yeah, timing.
And it's interesting where a lot of people just, that's how it happened for me. It was just being around sports, growing up in high school.
Yeah.
It's like, who could say the funny thing first?
Yeah.
It's about quickness, right? So like Conan O'Brien, and I appreciate that. Conan O'Brien is the quickest, fastest comedian, right? But then you have people like Nate Bargatze, who thinks a little bit slower, and like, so his jokes are a little bit deeper, right?
Okay.
So there's jokes there for multiple people. I'm like a machine gun where I'm like, and hoping that like 3 of the 12 hit, you know? Yeah. Where maybe Jen and like you're preparing, it's like maybe you come up behind me and you're like, this is the bazooka shot, you know? Like I've been preparing this and it's ready to go. I'm ready to fire. So it's just, there's something for both people. I think I'm funnier on the spot than I am in like, I'm going to go do stand-up comedy, which is like something I know about me. I'm better with other people and playing off other people.
Right. In a conversation.
Just standing there and be like, hello.
Do you want to know my brand of comedy? It's sitting next to the quiet person, the quiet, smart, funny person. And then when they like mumble a joke under their breath that no one heard, I just say it louder.
Yeah.
That's my tactic.
Stealing. Theft.
All right. Thanks, Taylor.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. That is the end of season 9. Thank you so much to every guest who came on. I know that I am more healed and funnier and calmer and more thoughtful because of the wisdom that they gave us. Thank you so much to Taylor Schroll, who does so much behind the scenes to put out a good program. Thank you most especially to you, listener. Without you, there would be no reason for a show. I'm so glad that you tune in week after week. Please, during this short, brief little time off, go back and listen to old episodes. Go back and check out other seasons. Please subscribe, share episodes with friends. In the meantime, you can catch me on Instagram at Allison M. Sully. You can catch us on TikTok at Sullivan Family TikTok. I co-host with Taylor on Forte Catholic, and it would be a pleasure to see all of you guys in those spaces as well. And season 10 is coming up quickly. We have a really great lineup planned for you guys. See ya.
Today's show was a production of Allison Sullivan in conjunction with the Forte Catholic Podcast Network. For more great Catholic podcasts, head on over to fortecatholic.com/podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.